If you're new to Monster Hunter, you've probably already realized how important your equipment is. You've also probably realized how overwhelming or confusing all the stats can be. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of every stat and what they mean so that you have the knowledge you need to become a better hunter. Starting with weapons, we have the attack power. This stat is probably obvious to all of you. It shows how much damage you can expect this weapon to do. The higher the number, the higher the damage. One thing that's important to note about the damage number is that by default, it is bloated. The amount of bloat depends on the weapon type. For example, a greatsword has a higher bloat value, giving it a higher attack power value. Dual blades, on the other hand, have a lower bloat value, making the final attack value comparatively lower. This bloat is used to show the single hit power of a weapon. Greatswords are slower than dual blades but have stronger single hits, so their bloat value is higher to show that. In your game's settings, you can disable this bloat value to show the true attack value of every weapon. With the true value shown, it's easier to compare the power of two weapons of different types. I recommend disabling bloated values if you plan on switching weapons frequently, or if you're trying to do the math on a min-maxed build. Next is the Affinity, which commonly confuses people. Simply put, Affinity is your critical hit chance. 10% Affinity means that every attack you land has a 10% chance of being a critical hit, while 0% means you cannot land critical hits. Critical hits in this game, by default, do an extra 25% damage. You may notice that some weapons have a negative affinity value. This means that the weapon can land an inverse critical hit, a hit that does less damage than normal. So a weapon with negative 10% affinity has a 10% chance of doing 25% less damage. Just under affinity is the elemental value. The value here can be broken up into two types, element and status. Element damage includes fire, water, thunder, ice, and dragon, and gives a flat damage increase which, by default, is unaffected by critical hits. Status damage includes poison, paralysis, sleep, and blast. These are also unaffected by critical hits by default, and we'll come back to these elements later. Next is the Sharpness. Sharpness affects how much damage you deal and how frequently your weapon will bounce. The damage dealt from Sharpness is a multiplier, with yellow Sharpness being the base of 1.0. I won't get into the multiplier values in this video, but just know that having below yellow Sharpness gives you a decrease in damage, while having green or above gives an increase. And as for bouncing, the higher the Sharpness, the less you bounce, and vice versa. We'll skip slots for just a second and go to the defense bonus. Most weapons will have a 0 here, but some will give you additional defense, which normally is only gotten from armor. And at the bottom here, we can see equipment skills. If you open your submenu, you can select the skill info button, which will show the description of the skills on a selected piece of equipment. I won't be explaining skills in depth in this video, but do know that skills are very important, and you should take the time to read their descriptions so that you know what you're using. Now back to slots. The slots on a piece of equipment allow you to attach what's called a decoration. Decorations are a way for you to customize your gear by selecting equipment skills of your choosing. Decorations are obtained by fighting monsters, with stronger monsters dropping better decorations. Remember how some weapons can have negative affinity? Well, using slots and decorations, you can attach affinity increasing equipment skills to lower the chances of getting an inverse critical hit by bringing that negative value up closer to 0, or even above 0, to allow your previously negative affinity weapon to land normal critical hits. Again, skills are very important, and they can do much more than just increase your affinity. I did say earlier that we'd come back to element damage. Now is when we do that. The actual elements, fire, water, thunder, ice, and dragon, provide a flat damage increase based on a monster's weaknesses and resistances. The statuses work differently than elemental damage. The number you see here is not a damage number, but instead an indicator of how potent the status is. The higher the number on the status, the faster you will trigger the status effect. As for what these effects are, poison temporarily and slowly drains the monster's health. Paralysis paralyzes the monster, keeping it immobile for a few seconds. Blast will trigger an occasional explosion for bursts of extra damage. And sleep puts the monster to sleep, giving you the time to heal, sharpen, or whatever you need. Oh, and just so you know, the first attack to wake a sleeping monster deals double damage, so be sure to use your hardest hitting move when your target is asleep. Finally, onto armor. You'll notice right away that armor can also have slots and equipment skills. They work the same here as they do on weapons, so I won't go over it again. Starting from the top with defense. The higher the defense value, the less damage you will take when you're hit. There are also elemental resistances. These values act as a percentage. For example, a fire resistance of -5 means that you will take 5% more damage from fire-based attacks. Conversely, a fire resistance of +5 means you will take 5% less damage from the same attack. Last but not least, we have group skills and set bonus skills. These work just like equipment skills, but they require multiple pieces of relevant armor to activate. How can you know which pieces of armor are relevant? Well, if it's a group skill, then you need only to find other pieces of armor with the same group skill. You can do this by sorting the armor sets. We can see that the Chemistry's armor has a group skill called Scaling Prowess, which, after equipping 3 pieces of relevant armor, will give you the Master Mounter equipment skill, increasing your ability to mount monsters. Now, you could just equip 3 pieces of Chemistry's armor to activate this group skill, but the cool part is that any other armor set that has the same group skill can also be used in combination. For example, you could equip 1 piece of Chemitress, 1 piece of Balahara, and 1 piece of Hirabami. All 3 of these sets count toward the Scaling Prowess group skill. In this way, you can mix and match different armor sets to get your desired equipment skills, and still get a group skill bonus. As for the set bonus skills, these are only on armor sets from specific monsters. You can't mix and match for these ones. The set bonus skill Doshaguma's Might, for example, requires at least 2 pieces of specifically Doshaguma armor, with the set bonus skill becoming stronger if you equip 4 pieces. So you could equip only 2 pieces for the weaker version of the bonus, but then you'd be able to use pieces of other monster sets to get the equipment skills that you want. Or you could forego some equipment skills in order to get the stronger 4-piece version of the set bonus. Set bonus skills often provide stronger and more unique bonuses than regular equipment skills or group skills, so while they're a little more limiting in terms of customization, they're still well worth using. And those are the basics of all the equipment stats in Monster Hunter Wilds. If you'd like me to go more in depth on anything we touched on in this video, let me know in the comments. Likewise, if I missed anything or got anything wrong, please let me know. If this helped you out, then you can help me out in return by leaving a like. Take care, and happy hunting.